Mystery Brothers. Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Brothers. Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Brothers. Mystery Brothers.
All right. So we are gonna go ahead and redo our ancient Egypt episode today. We realized that we had some issues with the audio, and it kept cutting in and out a lot, so we had to remove that episode. So we're just gonna go ahead and redo that episode. Although we did do a little more research, so it might even be better, maybe a little more information, So
yeah, definitely. It's definitely one of the seven wonders of the world is still the Pyramid of Giza that still stands. Why is this so interesting? Because this is baffled like modern day engineers, architects, like how these structures were built. Because even today, with that precision of accuracy.
Sorry, we still don't even know today how they were built, or even when they were built. Like all this kind of stuff is all we have guesses and we have estimations, and we'll get into that, like the conventional theories of what we have now. But then there's also there's all kinds of different estimates and guesses as to when and how they were built. So we'll go into some strange ones too. We'll get into some not even strange ones, just some alternate theories. Some are starting to become even more mainstream now because it's but
hard to ignore the evidence.
It is, yeah. There's all kinds of evidence that some things lead to this, some things lead to that, and it's like we just don't know. Fucking that's how it always goes on Mystery Bros, right? You're never gonna know the truth. But yeah, so first we'll kind of get into the conventional theories, and then we'll get into the more alternative theories after that.
Yeah. So, more like interesting theories.
yeah.
But what baffles like everybody the most is like how these were built before the invention of the wheel was invented. And this is back there. So like you go back 2500 BC is when it was built. And that is over
supposedly
allegedly. So that is over 2,000 years. So 4,500 years ago. Yes, correct. So pretty back there.
And we're talking about the pyramids.
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about the pyramids right now. The
Giza, the
pyramids of Giza. One of the seven wonders of the world.
And it's still standing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is also a huge part of the intrigue and the myth about the pyramids, because the Egyptians have a lot of hieroglyphs, right?
Uh-huh.
But there's no written record of how they built the pyramids.
Yeah. A lot of people believe it may have been in the Library of Alexandria or that kind of stuff. But yeah, as of right now, we have no proof or no written record of it.
Yeah, we have no written record. So all of this is just speculation and our best guesses of how they think was built and what mainstream scientists think was how it was built. And if you look at Egyptian society in a whole, you can go look back. So the first pyramids were actually built probably around 100 years earlier than the pyramids at Giza. Okay, and their first pyramid, it was a step pyramid, so it wasn't like a smooth aligning as it is today. It was like a step on how they built, and they actually. And then from that, 60 years later, the pharaoh Khufu built the pyramids by the Nile River. That was really the first smooth aligning pyramids that were built.
Okay. But these aren't the pyramids of Giza, right?
No.
We're talking about other pyramids.
So this is trial and error. So they actually, in the one in the reign of Khufu, during his reign, they actually had some pyramids that were not good built, that where they actually had to reconstruct.
Okay.
So they actually had a pyramid where they first built. It was too steep of an angle, and they put soft stone on the top. And what happened was it kind of sank in. So then they had to kind of re-engineer it and make it less soft stone, put more hard stone, and kind of put it inwards into a degree, put more hard stone so it wouldn't cave in on itself. This took time out of. This took an extra couple years. The emperor was, the pharaoh was definitely not impressed.
He was probably mad about that, huh?
Yes.
You think a lot of people got killed over that?
That's what they like say. Like they were like kind of like the pharaoh was God. So
Yeah. So I'm sure some people died over that.
So the engineers made a huge mistake. So their next pyramid was kind of like a red Egyptian pyramid. So this pyramid was built at a very steep angle, so it was very tough for them. So the next pyramid, they took a very conservative approach and built at a very low 45-degree angle. And then from that's how they learned. Once that was successful and how smooth that was, then they took the step forward and made it to the Giza pyramids.
Oh, okay, so the Giza pyramids were next.
Yes. And the pyramids of Giza are literally one of the 7 wonders of the world. If you look how high they are, they're around 482 feet high. That is around 60 tons of rock. And for 38 centuries, it was the tallest building made on Earth.
Way more than 60 tons. Each rock may have been 60 tons.
That's what I'm saying. Each rock has 60 tons. So 1.2 million.
Not necessarily, though, right? They're between... aren't they between like 3 and 60 tons, like depending on the rock? Yeah.
That's a lot. And that's what baffles scientists, like how they actually like were able to get these.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. They're conventional, the way that they explain it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, one thing that's really interesting about the pyramids is how well they align with our poles, like with north, south, and east and west.
Right.
They align perfectly with east and west. So like they align perfectly with that. And then from true north, there's 3/60ths of 1 degree off from being perfect.
Right.
Which is crazy. Like that's and this was long before
the invention of the compass.
Anyone had ever invented a compass, so they couldn't really that was something they almost like needed to be looking up or looking down at themselves to be able to see, you know what I mean? To be able to find out.
Yeah. What's definitely interesting about that is this is one of the greatest mysteries that archaeologists can still not, even mainstream archaeologists still have no idea.
Yeah,
how
according
they knew
to
that.
them, that's a coincidence, right?
No, how they aligned the true north, they actually know that actually was done on purpose. What's coincidence is what they think is the Orion's belt. If how they
way it lines up.
Yeah,
we'll get into that in a minute, though.
Definitely. So a theory is how they like did this precisely is they used the North Star and how it's set, and by calculating that over nights and nights, they finally knew how to align true north. And this is a hotly debated topic, but this is the only, and it's very simple. And if they did this, they're pretty damn intelligent. That's the only explanation they've come up with so far on how they aligned with true north and how it's so precisely.
It's a little fishy. You know, I don't know if I agree with this one, but because it's like, how do you think that really looking at the star, you could align it that perfectly?
That's what they say. How if you have to just look at the cycles of how it sets, rises and sets, and over the period of years, you can just figure out how to truly in that line north. And if you test that out, you can do it. You can do it now.
So basically, they plotted where the North Star was for like years and years, and then kind of like came up with the average of like where it was normally, and it's like that. I don't know. That's like almost impossible.
They've tested so that it could have been done, but like they would have been really smart. And that's the only theory they kind of have right now at the moment, how it's so precisely aligned.
I call bullshit on that one, but okay.
And what's also interesting about these pyramids is that the base was perfectly flat.
Yes.
It is also really hard to get a perfect flat base, and it kind of stunned the archaeologists for a long time. The leading theory now is that they built a trench around the pyramids, and they poured it full of water, and by seeing the level of the water, they chiseled around that so they know exactly where. They chiseled where like the water line is. Mm-hmm. They chiseled around that to make it perfectly even, perfectly flat.
It's pliable. It's possible, you know. I don't have anything against that one, but okay.
Yeah. And then if you go into like how the stones were cut, because like over a million stones were used for this project.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere over 600 million tons total.
It's amazing. And they would have to build in the reign of Khufu, which was 23 years. So this had to be built in 23 years.
Impossible.
That means they had to lay a brick or lay a stone every 9 seconds.
Yeah, right. And these stones were thousands and thousands of pounds. They weighed tons.
Yes. Yes, they weigh a lot.
Which is how and like we'll probably get into that in a sec, like how they think they actually moved in, all that blah blah blah. But like, yeah, isn't it like if they were off just 1/3 of an inch at any point at all, everything would have been thrown off?
Yes,
it's that precise.
It is so precise. I mean, like modern engineers still look at it and just like, we can't even do it that precise sometimes. Like, how are they able to do it?
Yeah, like so, I think if we tried to build them today, it would be very, 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 very hard. I don't even know if we could do it.
Interestingly enough, they actually did a research project and they brought all the engineers and they said, all right, replicate this. How much would it cost? And there's money to do that, and how long would it take? They estimated it would take around $4 billion to recreate the Egyptian pyramids, and we could do it in 4 years.
Wow, $4 billion. How can they move stones like that? We have equipment that can do that, like cranes and shit?
Yeah. It's easy for us. But 23 years for them is very impressive. Today it takes 4. Today would take 4. Crazy.
That is crazy.
And how they did this, how they cut through the stone, they used just the basic tools. They cut the stone using copper.
Mm-hmm.
And then they used a wooden thing, and they just hit the copper really hard, and that's how they chiseled the stone away from the rock.
Okay.
And this is what baffles scientists so much, because how much stone was used? There were 18 pyramids built in 500 years, and the stones used for this had to come from, it's not all over Egypt, all over the land. They had to have a huge communication system that far reached everything to get all these workers, all these stones precisely going and have no breakdown. I mean, even today, such a large operation, it's going to have some communication failures. That's very historic how they did it. Uses just the simplest of ways.
Yeah. I mean, they had to because the rock wasn't native to Egypt, right? Like most of that is limestone and stuff that was from.
Yeah, it used the very best rock, and it was from all over Africa.
Yeah. Didn't they say that they may have been able to float them on rivers, use logs underneath them and float them up rivers and stuff to
That's
get
the leading
them
theory.
in
That's the leading theory, because the Nile's the only river in the world that goes north.
How do they propose that they moved these stones?
One log at a time under the stones, and heaving it.
Okay.
That's how they propose. That's the only theory they have. They obviously had a little button thing, and
wouldn't you need isn't there a thing where it's it would take this many people just to move one stone?
They said it had to take, the workforce had to be at least 25,000 people.
Uh-huh.
And it used to believe that it was the Hebrews, the Israelites, were enslaved to build the pyramids. We now know that's not the case. These they had to be skilled engineers.
Yeah, these definitely weren't just random slaves working on them.
And they interesting found a huge catering service. They were also fed well.
How do they know that?
Just using just uncovering bones and how they the workers' bones and everything, and just from hieroglyphics.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
they were treated really well, huh?
So they were fed really well, and in higher management was even fed even better.
Oh yeah,
they're eating meat from the best places, because they fed these workers well. These weren't just ration, and I guess you have to, because I think that they've proven slave labor is not the best labor, because you're not going to do it at your best you
obviously,
can.
Yeah, that makes sense. That they wouldn't use slaves and stuff, but as far as how they were built and how they moved them and how I don't believe it.
It's just baffling, how we were so smart back then.
Obviously a theory. There's the ancient astronaut theory that aliens were somehow involved in helping us make these, because we said, the fact that they were aligned so perfectly with east and west, and then so close to perfect for true north. A lot of people point to like hieroglyphics and stuff because like the hieroglyphics and they described a lot of like gods and like that kind of stuff that they described as different. You know what I mean? Like they not necessarily human, which could just be stories.
Yeah,
could just be
definitely.
cool stories because you know people were creative back then and they like to tell stories, that kind of thing. Or you know, could they be talking about possible aliens or anything, something like that? That's what people like to say. I don't know if I necessarily believe the ancient astronaut theory. I'm very open to it, and I definitely don't think it's silly or anything. But I just don't know.
There's not enough evidence.
I wish, yeah, but there's not evidence of anything, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely get into some theories about that later.
Yeah.
What's also baffled scientists, like you make chisel through like just regular rock with like copper and like just using that and hitting on that, but how they cut through granite? Like this is a very primitive civilization.
Supposedly.
Yeah. And it's baffled scientists forever. The best theory they have is they made the copper into a saw and they slowly cut the granite, which does work, but it takes forever. So the sarcophagus inside the Egyptian tomb would have took around 4 months to complete.
Okay.
So that's their best theory. It's very slow, but that's the only one they have. And how they cut through granite. It's so precise. You can't even fit a credit card through some of those slits. And that's how nicely compact they all are. Which is insane.
So precise. How could we have been that precise if we were supposedly such a primitive people, you know, primitive society, primitive civilization?
Right.
You know? And
this is kind of also like where the ancient astronauts theory stems from, is from their beliefs. Why they built the pyramids, this is actually what mainstream archaeological thinks. It thinks that it was from the Ben stone that told them to build the pyramids. Because the Ben stones are in a triangle shape, and they thought that these mythical stones, that's why they need to build pyramids to bury their dead. These stones are believed to come from outer space. They believe to be meteorites.
Have they found these stones or
No,
something?
but that's what they believe. It's talked about
in the hieroglyphics and stuff. They talk about this stone.
Stones have not been found, but that's what their best thing that their beliefs originated from the Ben stone that told them to make these great pyramids, these rocks that aren't from this planet.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also, like how it intrigued like archaeologists is like how they built upwards.
How they built so high.
Yeah. There's some theories that they use, like they built some wooden cranes and stuff. There's no evidence of that. Mainstream archaeologists like rejects that theory. Their only theory is it had to be of some kind of ramp. And if it was just like a flat, long ramp, it would have had to been over 2 miles because the degree angle had to be very low to build these massive, huge stones.
Yeah, the angle that a ramp would have to be able to carry stones that heavy and for them to be able to go up instead of just fall down would be ridiculous. Like you said, 2 miles long. That's insane. They had a 2 mile long ramp, basically. I don't know.
But that's if it was just flat around. It was just like flat going up. A lot of archaeologists think that it was actually spiraling around the pyramid. Yeah. So it would be less ramp. Some ramps would be just like slowly going up.
Yeah, and it would turn around.
Yes. That's their best theory of that would make the most sense.
They haven't found any ramps though.
They have not found any ramp. They just think it was deconstructed. No hieroglyphs or anything. Like I said, there's no records of how the best we can do is speculate and just look at what we have in front of us.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, some of the early like explorers used dynamite to get in to the pyramids, and that could have like hurt some like evidence of. We could have learned more maybe on how they were like from what they built.
Yeah, they used dynamite to get in.
We had to blast their way in.
Really?
Yeah.
We didn't have any sort of drilling tool or anything we could have used. Or was this way back?
No, this is like in the 1920s. There probably was, but this is probably like we've come a long way of like
we were idiots back then. We were just like, hey, just throw some dynamite at it, blow that fucker open.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
They were like less concerned of how they're built. They're probably looking like what's inside.
Yeah, true. They probably didn't realize like how precise and like how insanely crazy that thing is.
And we see it now, and these are structures. This is also part of it. We don't have structures today that will probably last 5,000 years after we left. Like if we left this apartment right now and like never came back, like everybody did, guaranteed this building will not be standing in 5,000 years.
You don't think so?
No, we don't build anything to stand 5,000 years. Over history of time, it's the only ancient wonder still standing. It has survived all of time. It's incredible. And even some mainstream archaeologists actually think that the Egyptians had a very good knowledge of the stars, and that's why kind of like their religion is really based off. If you know about their religion, much like Cyrus, their god Cyrus, and all that, these are based off stars that they see in the night sky. So they think, like some actually think that the pyramids might be aligned with Orion's belt, because with Orion's belt you have the really bright star, the little smaller dimmer star, and then like one offset like really tiny star. And if you look at
that's how the pyramids work.
Yeah, like the pyramids have one tall structure, one small, like slightly smaller, than like a really small one offset. So some archaeologists think that they might have aligned that to represent their gods. And some of the shafts, because in their rituals of afterlife, when you die, in their beliefs, that you get to take everything with you to the afterlife. So, like, everything that is put in your tomb, you get to take that with you and live the best life you can afterlife, which sounds pretty sweet, in my opinion, especially if you're a pharaoh.
Didn't they put like slaves in their tombs and stuff too? Other people would have to die because the pharaoh died.
Yeah,
and they were going to be like his slaves in the afterlife, or his, not necessarily slaves, but like his, like, you know.
Yeah, and once the pyramids were shut, it was for eternal afterlife, and shouldn't be disturbed ever again until now. What's also interesting is that a lot of the pyramids, the mainstream theory is that the pyramids were built for tombs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what a lot of mainstream archaeologists think. No tomb.
Haven't they not even found tombs in the Great Pyramid?
All they have is a sarcophagus. An empty sarcophagus. They think over the years, because like this civilization is so long, and with tomb raiders, and in their religion, if you believe that you take everything with you to the afterlife, like there were all sorts of treasure in there. So they believe that the pharaohs were just taken out of their pyramids, just
out
for
of
like
the coffins.
Yeah, the coffin for like treasure hunters, tomb raiders. Yeah, for tomb raiders. So like they were just raided. If you look at the religious texts and everything, it kind of points to that they were used for like that would be that. It's a theory that the most accepted theory is that they would be used for that.
Mm-hmm.
And with the shafts actually line up. So getting back to the alignment with the stars, it aligns up with the star Sirius, which is one of their gods, and the other one aligns with one of the stars of Orion's belt. But other archaeologists, mainstream archaeologists, will reject this theory, saying it was just like released to the afterlife, and the pyramids is just mere coincidence that they were built. Because if you look at like the star pattern exactly of Orion's belt, it doesn't quite match up with the pyramids itself, like where they exactly are in comparison.
Not for thousands and thousands of years, but at some point it did. At some point, I'm pretty sure it was 10,500 years ago, they line up perfectly with Orion's belt. Because we have computer simulations that can go over that.
Yeah,
stuff.
but that's 5,000 years before allegedly the pyramids were even built.
Allegedly, that's why there's questions.
Yeah, you can't carbon date the pyramids, so that's what mainstream archaeologists for most likely think. There are some proponents a little more accepting to the fact that they knew the stars and that they were aligned for Orion's belt, and others reject that. But that's basically what mainstream archaeologists think of what the pyramids were.
Yeah. When they were originally built, they were covered in a different type of limestone, right? That was like really like shiny and really bright.
Oh, the Romans had
recently, or not necessarily recently, but like since then, it's kind of all eroded away or been stolen or something.
Kind of just been eroded away, but like the Romans have described it as like very beautiful when they first came across it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the pyramids are just crazy, man. It's tough. Like they're so precise and so intricate.
There's just so many questions.
There's just so many questions of how and why, all the stuff that you explained is kind of what mainstream science believes, but they're really just guesses.
They're the best theories. They're the best theories of what we can think of, what we would have used if we had those tools.
If we were trying to, if we were trying to build those things. Yeah. And it's still impossible to know. There's a lot of theories, a lot of interesting theories with some evidence that these things were built long time ago, like way before 2500 BC. Some people say, 10,000 BC. Some people say way before that even, which is way before what mainstream science believes was first civilizations. You'd have to be subscribing to the fact that there are civilizations way before what we conventionally believe, that there just isn't enough evidence to find on them existing.
Right. Kind of to support that theory, there's some alleged underwater cities.
A lot,
that like if were actually cities, they would have been on land way long before.
Oh yeah,
that would also rewrite history.
Absolutely.
I don't think any of them have been confirmed yet, but there's a lot. Yeah,
there could have been really advanced civilizations going on 10 to 20,000 years ago that we just don't have any evidence of, that we just don't know, and maybe they got wiped out by some sort of, cataclysmic event. Like apparently that's what a lot of people have theories that there have been civilizations for, in some cases, up to 50, 60, 70,000 years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, people had advanced civilizations, but there's cataclysmic events like earthquakes, volcanoes, meteors, all that kind of stuff, floods, tidal, that kind of thing. There was an ice age for a long time, and that can definitely wipe out civilizations, that kind of thing. So they think that there's a lot of because we know that there's been all kinds of cataclysmic events happening in Earth's history. We know that there's been huge meteors that have impacted Earth like plenty of times throughout the past, million or 2 years.
Because it's interesting that you say that, because there's actually a paper done by scientists that said if there was a ancient civilization that lived on this planet 1 million years ago, would we know? And they had to start off saying that there probably isn't, but we're just going to look at it to see if we would have any evidence. Would there be traces? And they came up with there would probably most likely be very little, like not really traces.
Yeah, so we wouldn't even really know.
We wouldn't really know. If there was a civilization, an old city that was here like 2 million years ago, we probably wouldn't know.
Yeah, because 2 million years, can you imagine how much erosion, like nature would just take care of.
I don't think the pyramids would be here 2 million years from now. I don't think so.
Probably not. No. Yeah. I don't think anyone's suggesting the pyramids are any older than like 30,000 years. I think the oldest I've heard is some people think they were like 36,000 years ago, because it has something to do with the way that the stars align. And we're going to actually get into that a little bit later, because we should go into the Sphinx now.
So the Sphinx, they think that the Sphinx was built around 2,500 BC for the pharaoh reign of Khafre, who built the second pyramid at Giza.
Okay.
The evidence is again circumstantial. It mentions by Hassan includes that the Sphinx location in the context to the funerary complex around the second pyramid, which is traditionally connected to Khafre. Sorry, Khafre.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry if I pronounced that name wrong. Apart from the causeway, the pyramid, and the Sphinx, the complex also includes the Sphinx Temple and the Valley Temple, which displays similar designs of their inner court. The Sphinx Temple was built using blocks cut from the Sphinx enclosure, while those of the Valley Temple were quarried from the plateau, some of the largest weighing upward to 100 tons.
The Sphinx, I think there's a lot more questions, even by the mainstream, as to like when it was built and stuff like that.
So yeah, that's kind of the leading theory is that the pyramid is built for Khafre.
The Sphinx, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, the Sphinx was built for Khafre. It was pointed to the second pyramid.
Okay.
And that's kind of what the mainstream archaeologists think about how old the Sphinx is, about 2,500 years old.
Uh-huh.
Lions were kind of involved in a lot of Egyptian mythology.
Yeah. There's a lot of things about the Sphinx, though, that don't add up. You know what I mean?
Right.
One thing that a lot of people have theorized is that since the head almost looks like it's too small, a lot of people think the head was maybe carved on later by Khafre or whatever pharaoh. Like, he ordered that. A lot of people think it was first a lion. It was like the face of a lion, normal size and stuff. And then one of the pharaohs ordered that it be, it be carved into his face and become like a monument of his.
Yeah.
So some people think maybe it was built pre-Egyptian.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a theory. I mean, if you look at the water erosion, like the alleged water erosion around the Sphinx, that's what like has people think that like no, this is not just like 2,500 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is way older.
If Dr. Robert Schock, who is a geologist, he looked at the Sphinx and was shown like pictures of it, but wasn't told it was the Sphinx. Just like they showed him a bunch of different pictures, and he says that as a geologist, he says that it's no doubt water erosion, and not necessarily just water erosion, just thousands of years of water erosion that you can see in the grooves and just the way that it was eroded. It's impossible for it to be wind and sand erosion. It just doesn't look like that. Wind and sand erosion. If you look at pictures of it, it shows like there's like little holes and that kind of thing. And the way that this looks, it's almost unmistakably. And many other geologists agree that it's like unmistakably water erosion. Well, if you think about, where they're in the middle of a fucking desert right now. And that place has been a desert in a very arid climate, like not very much rainfall at all.
Right.
In that area for tens of thousands of years. And the last time that there was ever like a decent amount of rainfall in that area was about 10,000 years ago.
If it was in this time of like warm tropic, it would have to be over 10,000 years ago. Which bases 10,000 BC, so it would be over 12,000 years ago. You have to go 2,000 before Christ. So yeah,
a
long time ago.
And I mean, apparently, like that area was kind of like a jungle for a long time until the Ice Age came, which was like 12,000 years ago. And then after the Ice Age was done, it was more of a desert area.
Right.
And there was not very much rain.
Some people would even like to say it was even before like the mini was maybe even like 26, even 35,000 years old. Like even before like an Ice Age.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reasons behind that is because of how it aligns with the stars. It aligns perfectly with Leo at somewhere around 10,000 BC, and then again about 35,000 BC. Because there's a celestial cycle every 26,500 years. So the stars, all the stars do a cycle through the sky where they line up, and that cycle takes 26,500 years.
Yeah, so they say it could be 36,500.
So yeah, they're saying
it could be 36,000.
Not even the
BC.
last celestial cycle. It was the cycle before that, which was 36,000 BC.
That's a long time ago. Which is crazy.
And I mean, that would definitely explain the erosion, the water erosion.
Yeah, and when like modern scientists like say it's wind erosion, which is kind of hard to explain away.
Yeah. It's very hard to say that when you look at pictures of wind erosion, sand erosion, and then you look at pictures of water erosion, it's just night and day, and it's very obvious that the erosion from the Sphinx is water erosion.
Right. And it's important to know that the American Geologists Association actually took Robert Schoch's hypothesis and wrote, and they absolutely 100% claim, nope, what he said is 100% correct, and this is absolutely done by water erosion, no question about it.
Yeah.
However, historians really reject that theory. It's like there's absolutely no way, there's no way any human civilization was around that time to build it. There's absolutely no way.
They think, they're convinced that if there was an advanced civilization that built something like that, there would be something left behind.
Yes, there's no record or anything around. There's no
evidence of any civilizations older than what, 5,000 BC or something? Somewhere
5,000 years. There's no civilization older than 3,000, I think 4,000 BC, so I don't think.
We're not saying humans, we're saying just civilizations. Civilizations of people living in communities and that kind of stuff. The humans, people have been around for, a couple 100,000 years, I'm pretty sure is what we think. As far as civilizations advanced enough to be able to build things like that, there's a lot of just evidence in general that there had been civilizations before. I mean, if you look at records from the Egyptians and even from the Greeks and all that kind of stuff, they all talk about civilizations that we don't have any evidence of, we don't have any remnants of. You know what I mean?
It would just be groundbreaking if this was true. I mean, that'd be very cool to know that this is way older than we think. Mm-hmm. And what kind of civilization built it, that'd be a huge mystery.
I mean, we know for a fact that there was a meteor impact, I think it was 11,500 BC or something.
Right.
Which could have easily wiped out many civilizations.
There's even some who think that the Sphinx is 800,000 years old, based on when the Mediterranean Sea went that far in and came back out and went back in.
Yeah.
Which would be real crazy.
That would be insane.
Not much evidence to support that though, but
there's a lot of people, many ancient civilizations write in their history books that at about, I think it was 10,500 BC, there was some huge flood that wiped out everything, wiped out almost everything. It's recorded in Greek history, Roman history, Egyptian history. Many different civilizations that supposedly didn't have really contact with each other talk about that. So it's interesting that they all, they all mention that. And then there's a story, I don't know if it's in text, where the Greeks are talking with the Egyptians. The Greeks come over and meet with the Egyptians.
Yeah, Sodden, who I talked about in the Atlantis episode, is featured in this.
Okay. But he's talking to the Egyptians. He's saying, there was a flood that wiped out all civilization 10,500 years ago, and the Egyptian guy says there's been lots of those. Right. It's happened many, 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 many times where civilizations have been wiped out and new civilizations come up and then they get wiped out, that kind of thing. There's just a lot of it's all anecdotal evidence because there's no way to have physical, we just haven't found any physical evidence, but there's there's just so much different anecdotal evidence that it talks about civilizations living way before what we conventionally think, which is 5,000 BC-ish, right?
Right. And what you just said kind of makes the connection to what we talked before in the Atlantis episode, where the priest and Sodden talk about Atlantis and how they talk about the Sphinx, and that's how they draw the connection. Another thing that Solomon actually said that he thinks the Sphinx was actually built by the crocodile people, and that's very interesting.
I think we're talking about the same story of the guy who was talking with the Egyptian guy. They think it was built by crocodile people.
So, but this is just an ancient story.
Yeah.
But that's very interesting. I wish we could know the answer because I would love to know the truth. I think we should definitely do some more exploring, especially If you wanted to go into like what they think there might be under the paw of the Sphinx.
Yeah, I know. They found using like seismic graphing or something like that. They've found out that there's a huge like chamber underneath the left paw of the Sphinx. It's a really big apparently, big enough to hold like all kinds of stuff.
And what they say, there's stuff inside there.
Yeah, they say they don't think it's empty, just based on, again, seismic records or something. Mm-hmm. They believe that there's a lot in there. But the Egyptian government won't let us look at it, or won't let anybody go in there. So unfortunately,
yeah,
there's some
crazy theories out there.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's crazy theories about what could be in there. A lot of people think that there's maybe information in there on how the Sphinx was built and how who
how
built
the pyramid.
It.
Yeah,
we could know who built the Sphinx, when it was built, all that kind of stuff. If there was evidence, or if there was like records in there and stuff,
Right, and like if this Sphinx was that old, it might have records of previous civilizations before the Ice Age and stuff, which would be crazy.
Yeah, it could have all kinds of crazy stuff in there, but can't go in it.
No. Maybe they're afraid, like, there might be, like, some ancient, like, alien thing that people would be afraid to see or something.
I think that the Egyptian government's trying to go in there or something. People have said that. Like, apparently, like, it was Graham Hancock and Robert Schoch and all them who figured this out, that there was a chamber under there, I believe. And
does he talk about it in the Joe Rogan podcast?
I'm sure he does, yeah.
I'll go look into that.
But he says that immediately after they kind of like reported that, they were told to leave, and like the Egyptian government wouldn't let them come back, and then supposedly they think there was definitely some sort of work done there, and like they were doing digging under there, but they were saying it was to remove like water that they found under there or something like that. But I don't know, it's a little fishy. Right afterwards they start digging under there.
Right.
But they just won't tell us, I guess.
No. Also, like, some theories on why they think the Sphinx is that old is the restorations. Like, apparently like, not just us, we're not the only, like, modern society who's restored the Sphinx a couple times. Like, it was also restored in ancient times many times.
Yeah.
Supposedly one time in 2500 BC, which is exactly, like, maybe 200 years before it was built. Like, what are you doing restoring it then? Like, it should be pristine then.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's like another theory of why it supports why it was built that long ago. And a lot of people think it was a lion. It's probably what the beliefs of the lion maybe made the ancient Egyptians like accept that belief. That's how. Also, they think that the Sphinx could be Anubis, the god Anubis, and then it was carved into the pharaoh.
But there's really no evidence of what it was before. There's no...
Right.
It's just guesses.
Correct.
People say lions. Some people think that the face doesn't really match up with an Egyptian face either, which is interesting, and could be evidence towards it being pre-Egyptian. Like, apparently, like, the angles of the face look a lot more like a sub-Saharan African face than it does in Egyptian face. Just like bone structure, that kind of thing. So there's that,
Right.
There's just a lot of facts, and nothing really, none of it adds up to one. Like, I don't know, man.
It's just so much unknown. Like, it baffles us today how all these pyramids and the Sphinx was made. And it's also crazy is kind of what like helps with the ancient astronaut theory is that pyramids were built all over the world, like in oceans apart civilizations, right? Like, how did everybody build pyramids?
Yeah.
At the
civilizations
same time?
That supposedly didn't have contact with each other, and that kind of stuff, right?
And they built similar pyramids. Or it could just be that, like, that was just maybe a simple, logical way of thinking. Like, that's the way to build. something about mysterious about like inside the chambers. Like once you go inside with a torch, that there's no evidence of soot or like smoke on like the walls that ever been used. How is the inside lit? They actually did like a scientific experiment on ancient aliens where they turned off all the lights inside the pyramid, and the guy took out his lighter, and it didn't work.
Yeah, there's not enough oxygen,
Yeah.
I think, in there for fire to stay lit like that.
Right.
Yeah. And there's how would they have written the hieroglyphs and stuff on there? Just did it in the dark, I guess. I don't possibly.
No, because you can't even get in there. So I'm like trying to explain in a way like mainstream archaeologists tried to explain away with like, oh, they used some kind of copper mirrors where like the lighting would just like they'd take it from the outside and just like bounce off. But they tried that and it didn't work.
They couldn't do that.
No. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe there was more oxygen inside at the time when it was built, so maybe they did use torches because it's kind of the only explainable way. They found some hieroglyphs where some people think that it's actually like a light bulb, like found in a tomb. They found it underground in the crypt of Deandra. They see these huge light bulb hieroglyphs.
Yeah,
which is very interesting.
You don't really look a ton like, I don't know, like it could be other things. I feel like.
Mainstream archaeologists think it's just like a flower blooming and just like rays shooting out.
Yes, I don't know.
If you look at all, and some people think like the pyramids were used as like what would you call it, like energy spots, energy hubs?
Yeah, Nikola Tesla actually believed this. He actually believed that you could. He believed and actually came up with ideas of ways that you could harvest energy from like the ionosphere in our atmosphere because of the way that our magnetic. I'm not a scientist here, but the way that our magnetic poles align and stuff, it just creates energy in the universe, out in our atmosphere, in the ionosphere particularly. And yeah, he believed that you could harness that energy through various ways of building certain structures, and most of his structures looked like pyramids, like the structures that he suggested to build to harness this. Most of them look like pyramids, and he believes that the pyramids could have possibly been some sort of source of energy, that they could have been using the energy from the earth. If that's the case, like, holy shit, how did we actually figure that out back then? You know what I mean? That's almost automatically put into the ancient astronaut theory, or the ancient astronaut, like it's put out a subsect of that, because I feel like if you're saying that we built those pyramids to harness energy, I feel like we would have had to be told that by aliens or something, right? Or maybe we were just that advanced. Maybe we are a lot older than we think. Super advanced civilizations have been around for tens of thousands of years, so they knew that kind of stuff. Yeah. The knowledge just was kind of lost.
It reminds me like how we use laser points now to find the exact measures. They use stars like North Star, like, and they use like the simplest ways to use like how to make a flat like structure. They use like the water. It's like, wow. And we use like this hard like advanced technology, and they use like the simplest things. It'd be crazy. Have the same like effect.
Yeah. It also, like, it had a lot to do with the placement. Like the pyramids are exactly, they're on at exactly the 30 degrees latitude, which is right. It's halfway between the equator and the North Pole in latitude. So it's, I don't know, apparently where the pyramids are placed has a lot to do with the gathering of the energy thing that we were talking about with Tesla. So that's why they believe that.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory.
The one thing that's interesting about ancient Egypt is that we just have no idea. We're really all just making educated guesses based on like certain points here that, a fact here that we may know, like they used this tool, or a fact here, like blah, blah. And as far as like their culture and how they learn things and all that, it's just all up in the air. There's so many random ideas, so many, theories and all that kind of stuff. So obviously there's some crackpot ones. There's some weird ones. And we're the mystery bros, so we're going to get into some
we love
weird
aliens,
ones.
so we're going to try to bring you some alien theories.
Yeah, we're going to get into some strange theories here. So go
yeah,
for
now
it.
we've gone through the normal stuff. We're ready to get some weirder stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So like as you said before, Evan, that this theory goes that the pyramids are actually 12,500 years old.
Okay.
At the time when you said the Orion's belt like aligned with the pyramids.
Yep.
They point to an Arabian text that said King Sared built the pyramids.
Okay.
And King Sared, when you translate to Hebrew, it means Enoch. And Enoch, have you heard of that story?
Nope.
And Enoch was one of in the religious. He was taken away by the gods. So they're saying that Sared is basically a god or extraterrestrial and built the pyramids.
See, they use the taken away by the gods as like meaning that there were aliens that came and took him, right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we all laugh at that, but it's not, who knows? That's a theory. I think most of us at this point believe that there's some sort of intelligent life out there in the universe, in the billions and billions and billions of planets that there are out there. So, it's not the craziest thing to say that aliens have visited Earth here and there at some points in history. Maybe thousands of years ago, there was a civilization that knew how to travel space and stuff like that, and they came to Earth and blah blah. Maybe their civilization's been destroyed since then, and that's why they haven't come back, or who knows,
Right.
So all this stuff, you want to laugh at it, but I mean, it's just as crazy. It's just as it's just as realistic as saying that all the the Bible is true and all the stuff that happened in there is true. There's no different than that, really.
Right. Definitely. And so they theorize. So if it's 12,500 years old, it obviously can't be a tomb. So they think it's a power plant.
Well, why couldn't it be a tomb?
Well, I guess it could be a tomb too, but they're saying it was actually built for it.
I've heard that before. It was like some sort of power plant.
Yeah. So
I mean, I did say a little bit earlier how like Nikola Tesla believed like you could tap into the Earth's energy, and that pyramids, like the pyramids, could have possibly had something to do with that. But I just don't understand the science behind it all. Do we got a little science?
So they think that sometimes if you can put water and zinc down, you might get some reaction. But it's still something. It's
not water though. I thought it was like hydrochloric acid or something.
Yeah, but they're using water to like get it. I don't know what you say. Get going.
I see.
Right. So that's what they're kind of saying, and it would harness these power that we can't understand.
Okay.
And if that's the case, it has to be aliens because like we can't harness that energy right now.
Not necessarily. Yeah, but that civilization could have been around for thousands of years.
Right.
We're not. You know what I mean? Like we're America. We've been around for 300 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine thousands of years from now, that's where we would be at in their point in civilization. So who knows? We're saying, oh, they must have been idiots because they didn't have email. It's like, no, they may have known some other crazy shit that maybe the Earth used to have a lot of some other resource that we don't have anymore, and they could use that. You know what I mean? Like we're just getting into all kinds of theories and stuff, but it's like you can't be so closed-minded about that kind of stuff.
Right. And so they point to like some of this evidence. This 80s archaeologist named Joe Parr actually went on to the top.
I know him. I've heard of him.
Yeah, went to the top of the pyramid and did some experiments. And he theorized that they could have been time machines, gateways to another portal.
Okay, bud. I remember hearing about him and talking about that shit. Yeah.
So that's what he thinks, just based off. There's like some energy coming from the top of the pyramid.
I don't. The whole like time machine and other dimension stuff. It's like, yeah. So could my bike. What makes that more realistic than what I mean? I'm not seeing any sort of. Does he have any sort of like layout or any sort of like science behind why that?
So
makes
he
sense?
claims that he made a pyramid. And he spun it really hard, and it came like a force field came around it.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he did that, and he couldn't reproduce that.
He did. He claimed he did reproduce it.
Did he reproduce it again? And so that we know,
No, unfortunately not.
Oh, unfortunately, it didn't work when he tried to show other people, huh?
No, it unfortunately died.
Interesting. Huh. Man, too bad.
And then there's like a site near the pyramids. It's called where a whole bunch of kings were buried.
Okay.
Supposedly, and it's called it's called the Sakarya Kings. It's called the Sakarya area.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and these rock blocks are so huge, and they fit they fit perfect together. Like
the architecture is a lot like pyramids and like the pyramids.
Well, they don't know how they transported the rocks down there.
Oh, okay.
They have they don't really know how they did it. But conspiracy theorists think that they weren't actually tombs. That there's these like bowl hieroglyphs, like strange bowls, and they were actually
like cave painting type
cave
stuff.
Painting,
okay.
Yeah, cave painting of these strange bowls. So people theorize that these bowls were actually feared by the Egyptians. They were actually not from this planet. They were aliens. And in order to put these bowls...
Hold on real quick. Why do they say they're aliens? Because they can't find any like fossil records of any of these?
They can't find fossil records, and there can't be... And these bowls don't look like...
They don't look like anything that we found? They don't look like
human bowls, yeah.
Human bowls?
They're not human bowls. They don't look like Earth bowls.
I mean, maybe they sucked at drawing. I don't know.
I don't know.
I bet you it was some sort of species that just has been extinct for thousands of years. But anyway, continue. They're space bulls now.
So they think that they're actually like these alien bulls that were very feared. So in order to put them away, they put these huge rocks across them so they get put back into their dimension.
What do you mean into their dimension? Now they travel different dimensions.
Yeah,
too?
that's what they put the rock on top, right? And then it goes and so it can't get back out, and it dies.
The rock on top of what?
So on top of the tombs to keep these bulls from coming back out.
Why isn't there any like fossil records or anything?
Well, that's what they're saying. It went to a different dimension.
Of course it did. Yeah. These are legitimate theories, guys. These are actually things that people believe. And like I said in the beginning, you need to be more open-minded about this kind of stuff. But when they start making claims that just have no way, like no sense of evidence, nothing, like you just say it's like, oh, it's from another dimension or something. Like, do you even really understand what that means? Like, I get that we believe there's other dimensions and that kind of thing, but we've never ever in the history of humans, as far as we know, have been able to travel between dimensions or anything like that. So
maybe the ancients did, and
who knows? Maybe they did, dude. Maybe they fucking did.
All right, and so this one you kind of have to go into some religious writings.
Okay.
What they believe. So the Egyptians say that 25,000 years ago, the gods came down and they disappeared and they would help guide us, right? Mm-hmm. And some people believe that actually King Ramses is actually an alien. And
I think I have heard about that, actually.
Yeah, so he actually came from Osiris. Osiris had green skin. And they believed he was a direct descendant of Ramses II, part human, and he was part god. In a lot of texts, he believed that he was part god. He came from the gods.
Okay.
So this is where a lot of the alien theories, like, oh, he came from the gods. That must mean aliens.
They like to think that gods translates to aliens, which I can understand why you would think that, but there's no way to actually prove that, unfortunately. But yeah, I can see how, like, if we were, we believed in gods and beings like that, and then you saw spaceships come from outer space and land and people come out of them, or things, aliens come out of them, you would think that those are gods. Right. So that makes sense.
And then I got one Temple Seti. Temple Seti, one of the temples in Egypt. This is what a lot of alien theorists like to point to. This is one of the oldest temples, and it's one of the biggest mysteries that we have. So a lot of these temples, like the pyramids, are like structures that we don't understand. Some of these temples are even crazier because they put 100-ton rocks on top of each other and like build like archways and stuff. And people ask themselves, why? Why make it 10 times harder on you? you could have made this like easier. Like you didn't have to put like 100-ton.
They didn't have
rocks.
to be rocks that were that big. They could have made them smaller.
Yeah, so so this is actually a lot of mainstream. This is a mainstream archaeologist debate. Like, why would you go out of your way to make it 10 times harder on yourself? When you don't need to.
Yeah.
And one of these blocks weighs up to 1,500 tons, and we can't move that today. We can't move that today.
We can't move it today.
We can't move it today.
Yeah, dude, 1,500 tons. That's okay. So that's 3 million pounds.
Right.
So that rock is 3 million pounds.
So this is one of the biggest stones at that site that we'd have no explanation
Even
how
today,
they moved it.
We can't move it, huh?
Yeah, we've never attempted to. We might if we put like millions of cranes around it. But we've never it's not like worth.
They didn't have millions of. They didn't have cranes or anything like that. So yeah.
So that's one of the biggest. We
probably could move it if we really wanted to.
Yeah, if we really want to right now, we could. Like, it's not worth like taxpayers' money to try to move this.
Yeah.
This rock.
Plus, it's there. We want to, we want to keep it. All those historic.
Well, they could try to recreate the rock and try to see.
Yeah. How many rocks can you find that weigh that much, though? I mean, goddamn.
So that's one of the biggest mysteries that they don't know how they moved that. 15.
And this was in some sort of temple,
right? At that site too, there's some very prestigious hieroglyphs. They come off the Karnaks of the temple, these huge towers.
Yeah.
A lot of engineers say that it looks like modern tool marking. Like it looks like it had to be made by some kind of machine. They don't know how
the carvings.
They don't know how these hieroglyphs could be made without machines, and that's a huge. Some of them a lot of mainstream scientists think no, these were hand carved, but a lot of people still say no. Like a lot of engineers have come out and say this is too precise.
So precise.
Yeah, it can't be.
Maybe they had a very precise way of doing it. I don't know, but yeah, those are always interesting questions when it's like even today we look at things and we're like that's tough for us right now with all of our machinery and engines and all that kind of stuff. Like thinking about how they did that stuff back then is always really fascinating,
Definitely.
Like they didn't have engines, they didn't have machines. The best they had was pulley systems and ropes and stuff like that. So it's
they didn't even invent the wheel yet or iron.
Yeah.
They had to do this all with the most basic of tools. And then a lot of people, the biggest mystery of the temple is the Ramses statue. Now it is perfectly carved out of rock. And it is so smooth. Modern engineers and rock, so they actually took one on a Nat Geo and asked this sculptor, can you make this? And he just looked at it and was no. So no one's been able to recreate it. It's been so precise.
Wow.
That it can't be right now. We can't recreate it like we did. Just how smooth it is. Using modern technology, we couldn't do it like that. Just how smooth it is. I guess we haven't attempted
how detailed
it.
And stuff.
Yeah, but modern rocks using modern tools today said they couldn't carve it like they did back then. Wow. So it's one of the biggest mysteries of how they carved that rock, how they carved the statue of Ramses.
That's crazy.
So this is why some of them point to aliens because we don't have an explanation of how we did it. So they up there.
Yeah, I mean it's a viable theory. You know what I mean? You can we don't know as of now how they did that. So did they have help? Was there some sort of help? You never know.
Some people would also like to point to the Temple of Edfu. There they show a boat where the gods came and brought knowledge to the land. And so they remade this boat at the Temple of Edfu. And they believe that's the god's boat, and a lot of people interpret the alien
as that being an alien UFO or alien spacecraft.
They have hieroglyphs and everything. It's like a record. It's like a library at that place.
Yeah.
So in one of their stories, they have the gods coming in from a boat and bringing them knowledge.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'd like to talk about is King Anunnaki. Some people believe that he might be an alien or an alien hybrid. So in their, I guess chronologically, they've always had the same beliefs. But when Anunnaki was the pharaoh, he changed the whole belief system, and everybody had to worship the sun disk.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. There was a few different pharaohs that completely changed their religion once they became pharaohs, right?
Yeah, and had to worship the sun disk. And a lot of people are like, well, what is the sun disk?
The sun disk, I mean, probably the sun, right? I mean,
like this disc so like a lot of people say this disc in the sun, like this glowing disc was like some UFO and like an alien.
Yeah.
And then
if you ask me with that one though, I think you're reaching a little bit. That was probably just the sun, right? I mean, the sun disk. Most likely that was the sun. But anyway.
And the last thing people would point to is the Ben stones. Like I talked to before, they think it's like a meteor that crashed and they thought these stones. Well, some people actually think that it was actually a pyramid that actually flew down and these gods came out and gave him knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or those are the alien Egyptian theories that exist around ancient Egypt.
Going deep into the ancient astronaut theories. I mean, the ancient astronaut theories are just very interesting because it's like, you can't disprove any of it. You can't be like, no, there are no aliens because we don't know that.
Yeah.
Or like, no, aliens never came. You can't say never. So it's one of those things where the door's always open and it's not crazy. Like I was saying earlier, it's not crazy to think that there's been intelligent life out there, that aliens at one point in time were able to travel space. And you know what I mean? It's just, we're trying to do it right now. Who knows if 500 years from now, we won't be able to travel space and go to other planets. What makes that, the universe has been around for billions and billions of years. So at any point, a civilization could have gotten to that point and then something happened. They're not anymore, so they don't visit us anymore. Who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah. It is important to note, like, for the theory that the pyramids are a lot older, you just have the water erosion to back that up. If you, like, look under the ground, you can't find any, like, human remains under 4,500 years old. Doesn't mean, like, they didn't, like, settle there. They might have just built it and, like...
By human remains, you mean like civilization remains? Because like humans have been around for way longer.
That's
than
what civilization. Like no, actually, like human remains
of civilization.
Human remains at that spot.
Oh, okay.
At that spot. Okay. At Giza, at the Giza Plateau.
I got you. Yeah,
But it's interesting. I mean, there's definitely more evidence. I feel like that the Sphinx is a lot older.
Yeah, that water erosion stuff is pretty.
Yeah.
Even like most mainstream geologists now are like, yeah, that's water erosion. So,
right.
What does that say? That Sphinx could be tens of thousands of years old.
Right.
It's just crazy, man. It's interesting.
I mean, ancient Egypt's interesting to me because, I mean, how they built some of the stuff is like an archaeological, like, I don't know what you would call that, like
mystery,
archaeological mystery, like how they built these things. And I think that, like, I don't think it's totally crazy to believe that like aliens might have like gave him some knowledge and stuff and like helped him out. Yeah. But I don't want to discredit like early humans saying that we couldn't accomplish some of these great feats.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many theories out there. Go check it out. You could read for hours and hours and hours about different theories about ancient Egypt. So we just kind of brought, the most interesting ones in our point of view.
Right.
But with that, I think I do want to, since we're talking so much about aliens and stuff here, I do want to do a little quickie conspiracy for this episode.
Oh, you're talking about the Mage?
The Mage UFO. I think it's interesting, man. Like, so supposedly, what was it, May 13th? The night of May 13th, a lot of people in, I think it's the county of Mage. It's close to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Supposedly there was a UFO sighting, and there was a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people on social media talking about it, saying like they saw like this crazy like blue disc in the sky and it turned red at one point. The videos I've seen are really, really interesting. The blue disc video is really interesting. The problem is it's all camera phones, and
in 2020, I feel like we have like huge, like great HD or great camera.
Yeah, why
is it so like?
Why can't someone ever just get a good video of one, man?
That's what I've always realized about conspiracy like things. Like, oh, I have this evidence. It's like, bro, like what kind of like resolution are you using?
Well, up until like 2010, I could understand because not everybody had like 30 megapixel cameras on their phone in their pockets with them all the
No,
time.
of
But
course
now,
not, yeah.
ever since 2010, it's like, why can't we get better video, you know? But anyway, the videos are interesting, man. The blue disc, like, it looks really weird.
Have
and
they
strange.
come out with another video since that, or is that the only video
There's
we have?
been about 5 or 6 videos that I've seen, and 2 of them show the disc in the sky, and it looks really strange. But it's dark out, so like all you see is just like a black sky, and then this like blue shining circle that looks like it's spinning. Now, I was thinking about it, right, and by those videos, just looking at it, it could easily be some sort of like light up frisbee or something that someone's hovering in the air and they're taking a video of, or some, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
like there's a lot of like real explanations that it could be, but the fact that so many
more
different people
saw it, so like everybody saw the same frisbee.
Exactly. Like so many different people were talking about it.
Like that must have been so popular. Hey, did you see how much my frisbee made headlines today?
Or not even necessarily a frisbee, but some sort of like remote control, like thing, you know what I mean? Like someone could have made something that looked like that. Like it wasn't doing any weird maneuvers that didn't make sense type of thing. It was just floating there. So then the story is that it crashed. All right. People saw it I think they saw it for like 10 to 20 minutes. I think a lot of people saw it. A lot of people were tweeting. A lot of people were like on social media talking about it. And then supposedly it crashed. People heard it crash. And then immediately the military was there on it. The military was on it. And according to some videos, like the military set up like a straight up like legit like containment zone where like they put up like fences and shit where like the public couldn't go. And in some videos it showed them like there was a group of people like standing outside these fences like, what the fuck? Like what's back there, you know, and they can't get in because it's a military zone. So according to everybody, the military got on it real quick. And then the next morning, there was a lot of like strange sounds people heard, like a lot of like big like explosions type sounds that they heard. And they got some of those on video too. But I think right now that's the extent of it.
Right. I actually read an article, Vice put an article out, and they actually asked Reddit why they deleted some of the comments and stuff. Reddit responds saying they don't like spreading rumors.
Yeah, one thing that was interesting is Twitter.
Twitter did not respond.
Twitter completely deleted. Like there was a hashtag Mage UFO
yeah,
that was trending for a while, and then a lot of people were posting their pictures and videos with using that hashtag, and then everything that had that hashtag got deleted off of Twitter. And there's no mention of why, right? You said that they haven't commented on why yet.
They haven't commented on why, yeah.
Now, since this is still a developing story, this happened on the 13th, and today's the 16th?
We'll keep you updated.
Yeah, today's only the 16th right now, so it's only been a few days. So we will dip back in and out of that, but as far as right now, I don't see any new information. I will say there's a video on YouTube that supposedly somebody like snuck past the military and took a video.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about that video, man. I've watched it a bunch of times. First of all, it's like it's so out of focus and unclear,
so grainy, yeah.
So grainy, and it's like, and it looks like according to the video, they had like a flashlight that was like set up right in front of the camera. And it was bright, and it's like if you snuck past a military zone, are you going to be having a flashlight like that? But the flashlight wasn't on the craft; it was just in front of him. So it was like, I don't know. But supposedly this video shows the craft, and it looks like a circular kind of craft.
Yeah.
Like it looks like almost like if you watch Jurassic Park, the new Jurassic Parks. You know how they have those
that's what I thought too.
That people ride in, where it's that circular like glass thing that just like rolls. It kind of looks like that. It's like almost like a gyrosphere type of thing. But it's so out of focus. And then
so bad.
Here's what I watched that video a bunch of times. It really looks like they just are really close up to something small. Like they have like a little tiny like fake like UFO thing they put on the ground, and they got their camera super close to it and made it look like it's normal size, but it looks like that's actually a super tiny thing. You know what I mean? That's what it looks like to me, is because in the background you see some trees, and the trees kind of look like blades of grass and stuff. And it's like, oh, I think that this is just a really tiny like action figure toy that he has that he just like got the camera really close, but like out of focus, and it makes it look like it's a real size
UFO.
UFO.
If I would have passed military, I would have at least come with a better camera, dude.
Yeah, if you're gonna get past the military zone and try and take video, you need to have a better camera than that. Like, what are you risking your life for, man?
Yeah. Like, no one's gonna believe me if I come with like some grainy quality.
Yeah, you get some shitty video.
But it's definitely interesting. I definitely want to see where it goes. If more information comes out on it, definitely something to watch.
Yeah, there's some compilations on YouTube if you want to look. If you just type Mage UFO, MAGE UFO, you'll be able to see the videos that are out right now. And I mean, you know, like I said, in my head, that video of the up close UFO, I think that's bullshit. I think that's someone just taking advantage of
the situation,
trying to get like views and clicks or whatever. The one of it in the sky, interesting. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's plenty of things that I could imagine that could be from Earth. You know,
and they heard some weird sounds, and like one they even showed like smoke coming from like the crash site. So it's interesting.
What's interesting is the amount of people that were commenting. Like at one point, the Mage UFO was trending on Twitter because so many people were saying like, you know, I saw something weird in the sky over here, and blah blah blah. So it's an interesting little story. It's a little developing story that we'll kind of keep an eye on. Let you guys know. I wouldn't be super surprised if it comes out that it's a hoax, that it's fake. Because
or they could just give us or it just could be a weather balloon, you know.
No, it's definitely not a weather balloon.
No, they could give us an explanation, you know.
Yeah, they could. And the thing is, I might believe it if they give some sort of explanation because again, the videos are bad and I could see it being many things.
Could be a cover up.
Maybe if I saw it in person, I would be like, no, that's a fucking UFO. But from the videos, it's like it's hard to tell. Yeah. So
I would like to see a UFO one day. Then I would be nice.
Obviously, yeah, we all want to see one, man. You got to go out into like the middle of nowhere to see that kind of stuff. Apparently, the aliens don't like heavily populated areas. I think they prefer, you know,
the desert.
Yeah, they prefer more secluded, less populated rural areas. They don't want to cause problems. They don't want to be seen. They don't, you know, that kind of stuff. But who knows? Maybe one day we'll find out. Hopefully soon, man. I'm hoping that in my lifetime.
Hopefully by like before this podcast ends.
Yeah, I'm hoping that in my lifetime we will have a definitive answer to
are we alone or not?
Are we alone in the universe? And I almost feel like we already do. Like there's no way that we're alone in the universe. But do aliens visit Earth and have they been to Earth? I want an answer.
Have they been to Earth? I mean, it's like Chariots of the Gods. I mean, have you heard the book?
Yeah,
it was one of the most popular books in the 70s. Like people are very interested in that.
Of course, yeah.
And we're just gonna try to bring you some answers.
Yeah, I wish, man. Well, yeah. So that's that. That's Egypt and alien stuff. I don't know if we have anything for next week.
We have to. We have to redo an episode.
Yeah, we have to redo some episodes, but we got to do a new episode next week too.
Right.
Because this episode is just a redo, so we need to give out some sort of new information. So
you know, maybe
we'll keep it a surprise.
We shouldn't announce it anymore because we announced it a couple times and we've switched.
Yeah,
we've switched what we've done.
Like the Skinwalker, we said we were going to do an episode on Skinwalker.
Yeah, we just like the Zodiac Code just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So eventually we'll do Skinwalker, but it just wasn't the right time. Yeah, so we'll keep you guessing this week. You can just tune in next week and you'll find out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like you're gonna have to sleep a couple days not knowing. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, so thank you guys for listening to the Mystery Bros, and peace out.
Peace.
Mystery Bros. Mystery Bros.
Mystery Bros. Mystery Bros.
Mystery Bros.
Mystery Bros. Mystery Bros.